The sun hung low in the sky on the last day of school at Crestwood High, casting long shadows across the empty hallways as students buzzed with the excitement of summer. Ethan stood by his locker, his hand poised over the combination lock, but his mind was miles away. The rumors of a cursed classroom had circulated among the seniors for years, a chilling tale that had morphed into a rite of passage of sorts. He felt a mix of exhilaration and dread as he thought about what lay ahead. "Hey, Ethan. Are you ready for the best summer ever?" Mia's voice broke through his reverie. She bounced toward him, her auburn hair catching the light like a fiery halo. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and for a moment, he allowed himself to smile. "Yeah, I guess. Just can't shake this feeling about that classroom, you know," he replied, closing his locker with a soft thud. Mia rolled her eyes playfully. "Come on. It's just a bunch of old ghost stories. What's the worst that could happen? You'll get a few chills and some good tales for the campfire." Ethan chuckled, but his heart wasn't in it. He had heard the stories, students who claimed to have seen shadows flitting past windows, whispers echoing through vacant halls, and the legend of a girl who had disappeared from that very classroom years ago. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. As they made their way to the cafeteria, Mia suddenly stopped in her tracks, her eyes locking onto something on the table. "Look at this," she exclaimed, picking up an old yearbook. The cover was worn, the edges frayed. "This must be ancient." Curiosity piqued, Ethan leaned closer as she flipped through the pages. The laughter of their classmates faded into the background, replaced by the haunting images of students long gone. Then, Mia froze on a page, her finger tracing the face of a girl with dark hair and a bright smile. "Who is she?" Ethan asked, intrigued. "I don't know, but look at this." Mia turned the page, revealing an article clipped to the inside cover. The headline read, "Local Girl Missing, Search Continues." The article detailed the disappearance of a student named Sarah, who had vanished without a trace from Crestwood High. "This is creepy," Mia said, her voice lowering. "She was never found." Just then, Jake sauntered over, his laughter ringing out like a bell. "What's with the gloomy faces? You two plotting a horror movie?" Mia closed the yearbook quickly, her heart racing. "Not exactly. Just, looking at some old stuff." "Old stuff? Please. You guys should lighten up. Ghost stories are just that, stories. I'd rather enjoy my summer without getting spooked." He leaned against the table, smirking. But as they exchanged quips, Jake's phone buzzed violently on the table, breaking the momentary levity. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting from amusement to confusion. What is it?" Ethan asked, sensing the change in Jake's demeanor. "I just got a text. It's weird. It says, leave the school before sunset." Jake's voice trembled slightly, the bravado slipping away. "Who's it from?" Mia inquired, her curiosity piqued. "No idea. Just a random number. But this is kinda creepy, right?" Jake chuckled nervously, though the humor didn't reach his eyes. Ethan felt a cold chill run down his spine. Maybe it's just a prank. You know how people are at the end of the year. Or it could be a warning, Mia added, her voice barely above a whisper. The thought hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. "Come on, don't tell me you believe in that stuff." Jake scoffed, trying to regain his composure. "You two are letting this place get to your heads." But Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air in the cafeteria felt charged, as if the walls themselves were listening. As the final bell rang, signaling the end of their high school journey, he couldn't help but glance toward the hallway that led to the infamous classroom. What secrets lingered there? What truths had been buried, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover them? As the trio walked out into the sunlight, the laughter of their classmates faded behind them, replaced by an unsettling silence that seemed to echo the warnings of the past. The summer stretched ahead, but little did they know that the last day of school would be just the beginning of a nightmare they could never have imagined. The dim light of the setting sun cast elongated shadows across the empty corridors of Crestwood High as Ethan, Mia, and Jake gathered their courage in front of the infamous classroom. With flashlights in hand, the trio exchanged nervous glances, their hearts racing with a blend of excitement and trepidation. The stories they had heard whispered among their peers now felt all too real as they stood before the heavy door, the gateway to the unknown. "Are we really doing this?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She adjusted the strap of her backpack, feeling a strange mix of apprehension and curiosity. "Come on, it's just an old classroom," Jake replied, though his bravado was laced with uncertainty. "What's the worst that could happen? We find a few dusty books and maybe a ghost or two." He chuckled, but it didn't fully mask the tension in his voice. Ethan stepped forward, pushing the door open with a creak that echoed in the stillness. "Let's find out," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The door swung wide, revealing a room frozen in time, cloaked in shadows and dust. Inside, the classroom was a haunting reminder of its former glory. Desks lay scattered, some overturned, while the walls were lined with peeling posters and faded charts. A cracked blackboard stood at the front, and as they approached, they noticed something chilling scrawled in white chalk: "They never left." Mia shivered, her breath hitching in her throat. "This place gives me the creeps," she said, her voice trembling. "What if the stories are true?" "Relax, it's just a prank. Someone probably wrote that to scare us," Jake replied, though his eyes darted to the corners of the room, where shadows flickered ominously. But before Ethan could respond, the door slammed shut behind them with a resounding bang, rattling the frame and sending a jolt of panic through the group. "What the hell?" Jake exclaimed, rushing to the handle and pulling with all his might. "It's locked." "Calm down," Ethan urged, trying to maintain his composure. "Let's look for another way out." They turned their flashlights across the room, illuminating the dust motes that danced in the air like lost souls. As they searched, Mia's gaze fell on the old desks, the grainy wood scarred with years of student inscriptions. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a desk that bore the name, Sarah, in faded letters, followed by a date that sent a chill down her spine. "That's the name of the girl who disappeared." "Let's not dwell on that right now," Jake said, his voice wavering. "We need to focus on getting out of here." Suddenly, a whisper echoed through the room, a faint sound that seemed to call Mia's name. She froze, her heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" she asked, wide-eyed. "Probably just the wind," Jake said dismissively, but his own voice held an edge of fear. "We need to check the windows." As they moved toward the windows, the atmosphere thickened, a palpable sense of dread enveloping them. Shadows danced just beyond the reach of their flashlights, and the air grew inexplicably colder. Ethan felt a knot tightening in his stomach. "This isn't right. We should have never come here." "Hey, it's just an old classroom," Jake repeated, but his bravado was fading. "We'll find a way out. Just stick together." But as they reached the windows, a sudden gust swept through the room, extinguishing their flashlights and leaving them in total darkness. Panic set in as they fumbled to turn them back on, their breaths coming in quick, shallow gasps. "Ethan, what's happening?" Mia cried, her voice cracking. "I don't know," he shouted, his heart racing as he tried to regain control. "Just hold on to each other." In the pitch black, they heard the sound of scratching, like fingernails raking against the walls. A cold breeze whipped around them, and Mia felt fingers of fear clawing at her heart. "We need to get out," she urged, her voice barely a whisper. Just then, a loud crash echoed, and the door swung open with a force that sent a shiver down their spines. Standing in the doorway was a figure cloaked in shadows, beckoning them to follow. "Who are you?" Jake shouted, his voice trembling as he instinctively stepped back. "Come," the figure whispered, a voice that seemed both familiar and foreign. "You must see." Ethan glanced at Mia, who looked pale and frightened. "Do we trust it?" he asked, his mind racing. "I don't know," she replied, her voice shaking. "But we can't stay here. We have to find out what's going on." With hesitant steps, the trio moved toward the figure, their hearts pounding in unison, each pulse echoing the fear that had taken root in their minds. The shadows closed in around them, and as they crossed the threshold of the doorway, they knew there was no turning back. In the dim light of the cursed classroom, Ethan, Mia, and Jake were engulfed in an eerie silence that made the air feel thick and heavy. Their heartbeats echoed in their ears as they searched desperately for an escape. The room, once filled with the sounds of laughter and learning, now felt like a tomb, holding the secrets of those who had come before them. "Where's the door?" Mia whispered, her voice shaky as she ran her fingers along the dusty walls, searching for a way out. Panic tightened her chest as the realization hit her: they were trapped. "I swear it was right here," Ethan replied, his eyes darting around the room, taking in the unsettling remnants of the past, a broken desk, a faded poster, and the chilling message on the blackboard. "What does that even mean?" "They never left." Jake, who had been quiet since the door slammed shut, shook his head as if to clear away the fear that clung to him like a heavy fog. "Come on, this is just a prank." "Someone's messing with us," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Let's just find a window or something." Mia, however, was drawn to the strange compartment they had discovered in the wall. It seemed to pulse with a dark energy that both frightened and intrigued her. She knelt down to examine it more closely. "Guys, look at this," she called, her voice rising with excitement and dread. "These photos, they're all marked with dates. These students, they disappeared." Ethan moved closer, peering over her shoulder. "What? Let me see." As he leaned in, he felt a chill creep up his spine, the hairs on his arms standing on end. The photographs were old and yellowed, each face frozen in a moment of time, their eyes staring back at the trio with an almost haunting familiarity. "Is that?" Jake began, his voice trailing off as his gaze landed on a particular photograph, a girl with long, dark hair and an innocent smile. "That's the missing girl, isn't it?" Mia nodded, her heart racing. "Her name was Sarah. I read about her in the yearbook. She just vanished." As she spoke, a soft whispering began to fill the room, barely audible but unmistakably calling her name. "Mia. Mia. Do you hear that?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mia's breath caught in her throat. It's calling me," she murmured, entranced by the sound. It felt familiar, like a thread tugging at her very being. "I have to find out more." "No, we can't stay here. We need to get out." Jake insisted, his panic escalating. He moved toward the door, but it remained solidly shut. "What is going on?" Suddenly, the lights flickered and then went out completely. The room was plunged into darkness, and a cold wind swept through, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of decay. The chill settled in the pit of Mia's stomach, amplifying her fear. "Ethan, can you turn on your phone?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yeah, one sec," he fumbled in his pocket, finally pulling out his phone. The weak glow illuminated their faces, revealing the terror etched in their expressions. The light cast long shadows, and for a moment, Mia thought she saw something move in the corner of the room. "Did you see that?" she gasped, gripping Ethan's arm. Jake, now visibly shaken, backed away from the shadows. "This is insane. We need to get out of here." He reached for the door, pushing against it with all his strength, but it wouldn't budge. As the whispers grew louder, they seemed to swirl around Mia, enveloping her in a cacophony of voices. "Mia! Mia! Stop! Just stop!" she shouted, her voice breaking. "What do you want from me?" The room fell silent, the sudden absence of sound almost deafening. In that moment, Mia felt a surge of energy, as if the very walls were listening, waiting for her to uncover the truth. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. I have to know what happened to you, Sarah. I won't leave you here. Are you crazy? Jake exclaimed, his eyes wide with disbelief. You can't talk to. Shoo. Ethan interjected, straining to listen. The whispers crescendoed, rising into a chorus that filled the room with an otherworldly presence. Mia, the voices beckoned again, more insistent this time. With a newfound resolve, Mia reached out toward the photographs, feeling an inexplicable connection to them. I'm here, she said softly, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. I won't let you be forgotten. Ethan and Jake exchanged worried glances, the tension thickening as the air around them seemed to pulse with energy. The darkness felt alive, and they were caught in its grasp, teetering on the edge of a revelation that could change everything. In the pitch-black room, Ethan frantically fumbled for his phone, his heart racing. He managed to turn on the flashlight, but the beam of light illuminated not the comforting familiarity of his friends, but a terrifying face staring back at him from the darkness. It was a pale visage, wide-eyed and sorrowful, and for a fleeting moment, he thought he had stumbled upon a ghost. Ethan. Mia's voice quivered, breaking the stillness that enveloped them. What did you see? It's nothing, just a trick of the light, Ethan replied, his voice shaky as he swiped the light around the room, desperate to dispel the haunting image. But the shadows seemed to cling to the corners, refusing to reveal their secrets. Jake, still paralyzed by fear, finally found his voice. You guys. I saw her. I saw the ghost of the girl who disappeared. In the hallway. I thought I was losing it, he confessed, his words tumbling out in a rush. She was right there, just staring at me. What do you mean? You saw her. Are you serious? Mia's disbelief was palpable, but a flicker of fear ignited in her eyes. You can't be serious. What did she look like? She looked sad. Like she was trying to tell me something. Jake swallowed hard, his face pale. I thought I was just seeing things, you know. But now I don't know what to think. Another loud crash echoed through the room, causing them all to jump. The door swung open with a creak, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. Ethan's heart raced as the figure beckoned them to follow. What is that? Mia stammered, clutching Ethan's arm tightly. I don't know, Ethan whispered. Should we go? I mean, we can't stay here. Are you crazy? Jake snapped, his voice rising in panic. That could be it, the ghost. We can't just follow her. But something in Mia's expression shifted. No, Jake. I think we have to. If she's trying to lead us somewhere, maybe we can find out what happened to her, to all of them. Reluctantly, the trio stepped toward the open door. The figure lingered just beyond the threshold, an eerie silhouette against the dim light flooding from the hallway. It turned and began to glide away, and despite their fear, they felt an inexplicable pull to follow. As they stepped into the corridor, the air grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in on them. The flickering fluorescent lights above buzzed ominously, casting long shadows that danced around them. The figure moved with an ethereal grace, leading them deeper into the bowels of the school, past rows of abandoned lockers that stood like silent sentinels, encased in layers of dust and neglect. Where are we going? Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, Ethan admitted, glancing nervously at Mia. But we have to find out. We can't turn back now. The figure stopped abruptly, turning to face them. Its features were obscured, but a soft, sorrowful sigh seemed to echo from its depths. Mia stepped forward, emboldened by a strange sense of connection. Are you the girl from the yearbook? She asked, her voice trembling yet steady. The figure nodded slowly, and as it did, a chill swept through the corridor, causing the hairs on the back of Ethan's neck to stand on end. What do you want from us? Jake demanded, his bravado faltering. The figure raised a hand, and in that moment, Ethan felt a rush of memories, fragments of laughter and sorrow, moments from the past that slipped through his fingers like sand. It was as if the spirit was sharing its story with them, the weight of its pain palpable in the air. "Please," Mia said, her voice breaking. "Tell us how we can help you." The figure pointed down the hall, toward a door that was slightly ajar, its frame splintered and worn. Ethan exchanged a glance with Jake, and they both knew that whatever lay beyond that door was the key to unraveling the mystery that had ensnared them. With a deep breath, they approached the door, feeling a mix of fear and determination. The air felt charged, and the shadows around them seemed to pulse with life. They stepped inside, ready to uncover the truth, not fully aware of how deep the darkness went or what awaited them on the other side. The trio hesitated for a moment, exchanging nervous glances, but the figure, now a whispering silhouette against the crumbling walls, beckoned them forward with an outstretched hand. Ethan, heart pounding in his chest, took a tentative step, followed closely by Mia and Jake, who was still reeling from the revelation of the ghostly visage he had encountered earlier. "Are you sure we should be doing this?" Jake whispered, his voice barely above a murmur. His skepticism had waned, replaced by a palpable dread that gripped him tightly. "We have to find out what she wants," Mia replied, her voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of fear. "There's got to be a reason she's leading us." As they moved deeper into the school, the atmosphere thickened with an unnatural chill. The dim light from Ethan's phone illuminated the corridor ahead, revealing the faded remnants of lockers, their doors hanging ajar like gaping mouths. The air was heavy with dust and despair, and every step they took echoed ominously in the silence. The figure led them through a winding path of abandoned classrooms, the faint sound of their footsteps drowned by the haunting stillness. Each room they passed bore witness to the passage of time, with broken desks and scattered papers littering the floor. The further they went, the more the walls seemed to close in, as if the school itself was alive, watching, waiting. Finally, they entered a hidden room at the end of a narrow hallway. It was small and cluttered, filled with old trophies and yellowed photographs, remnants of a forgotten era. Dust danced in the shafts of light that managed to penetrate the grime-streaked windows. "This place, it feels wrong," Ethan said, his voice barely breaking the heavy silence. He stepped closer to a trophy case and noticed a small plaque that read, "Crestwood Society, for Excellence in Leadership." Mia picked up a dusty yearbook from the table, flipping through the pages until she found a picture of a group of students, all wearing the same smug smiles. The ghostly figure lingered at the edge of their vision, growing clearer in the dim light, and suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. "What happened here?" Mia asked, her voice trembling as she sensed the weight of the room's history pressing down on them. The figure, now more distinct, turned to face them fully. Her eyes glowed faintly, filled with an emotion that transcended mere anger. There was pain, betrayal, and a desperate need for justice. "You're here because of them," she said, her voice echoing like a distant memory. "They took everything from me, my life, my friends, my family." Jake swallowed hard, stepping back slightly. "Who are you? What do you want from us?" "I was one of them," the figure replied, her voice growing stronger, more resolute. "A member of the Crestwood Society. But they turned on me when I wanted to expose their dark secrets. They sacrificed me to keep their power." Ethan's heart raced as he processed her words. "Sacrificed you? What does that mean? What did they do?" "They used me to maintain their status," she continued, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. "They thought if they got rid of me, the truth would remain buried. But I'm still here, trapped in this hell, waiting for someone to reveal the truth." Mia felt a chill run down her spine as she listened intently. "But how? How can we help you?" The figure stepped forward, her eyes locking onto Mia's. "Your family, they were involved. They knew what happened to me. They could have saved me but chose power over me. You must confront them. Only then can I be free." Jake looked back at Mia, concern etched on his face. "We can't just go to her family and accuse them of something this serious. What if we're wrong? We're not, Mia said, her voice steadying as realization dawned upon her. We have to face this. If we want to stop her pain, we need to uncover the truth. As the echoes of their conversation filled the room, the figure began to shimmer, her form becoming less distinct. Time is short, she warned, urgency creeping into her voice. You must act before sunset. The darkness will claim you if you linger too long. Ethan felt the weight of her words pressing down on him. We'll help you, he promised, determination coursing through him. We'll find out what really happened. With that vow, the figure nodded solemnly, and for the first time, a flicker of hope appeared in her eyes. The shadows around them deepened, swirling in anticipation of the choices they would make in the moments to come. The air in the hidden room was thick with the scent of dust and decay, and a heavy silence enveloped Ethan, Mia, and Jake as they stared at the shadowy figure before them. Moonlight filtered through a cracked window, illuminating the girl's ethereal form, her long hair cascading like a dark veil over her shoulders. The truth was palpable, and the weight of it pressed down on them like a physical force. I've been waiting, the girl said, her voice a mixture of anguish and fury. Waiting for someone to find me. Ethan stepped back, his heart racing. Who are you? The girl's eyes glimmered with a mix of hope and despair. I was Sarah. Sarah Mitchell. And I was sacrificed. The name echoed in Mia's mind, a haunting whisper from her childhood. Sarah had been a ghost story, a name muttered in hushed tones at family gatherings. But she was more than a rumor, she was flesh and blood, and she was family. Mia? You okay? Jake's voice broke through her reverie, but Mia could hardly focus on him. All she could see was the tragedy laid bare before her. Sarah, Mia whispered, stepping forward, her heart aching. You're my cousin. I've heard stories about you. I thought they were just that, stories. Stories told to keep the truth buried, Sarah replied, her tone sharp. Your family was part of the society that condemned me. They believed my disappearance would grant them power. Her eyes bore into Mia's, filled with a sorrow that cut deep. They were wrong. Mia felt the ground shift beneath her, her family's legacy suddenly a weight she could no longer ignore. No, it can't be true. My parents, they would never. They did, Sarah interrupted, her voice rising in intensity. They sacrificed me, Mia. And now, I am bound to this wretched place. I was never meant to be forgotten. Jake, still processing the revelation, looked between the two girls. What do you want from us? He asked, his voice shaky. I want justice, Sarah seethed, her form flickering with anger. And I want to be free. You three stumbled into my prison, and you have a choice, help me break the curse or suffer the same fate. Ethan stepped forward, his fear giving way to determination. What do we have to do? You must confront the truth of what happened here. You must unearth the dark secrets of the society and reveal them. Only then can I find peace. Sarah's eyes softened slightly as she continued, but beware, the society will not let their sins be exposed easily. Mia's heart raced as she felt the weight of the task before them. What if we can't? What if they come after us? The idea of facing her family's dark history terrified her. You must be brave, Mia. You have the strength of your lineage, but you also have the power to change its legacy. Sarah took a step closer, the shadows swirling around her. I can guide you, but you must trust me. Jake exchanged a glance with Ethan, who nodded resolutely. We'll do it. We'll help you. Mia took a deep breath, determination flooding her veins. Together, we can expose them. We can set you free. Sarah's expression shifted, a glimmer of hope breaking through her sorrow. Thank you. But be warned, the darkness will fight back. You must be prepared for what lies ahead. As the trio nodded in agreement, the air around them began to crackle with energy. The shadows deepened, and a low rumble echoed through the room, shaking the very foundation of Crestwood High. Suddenly, the walls began to pulse, revealing faded images of the society's past, rituals, ceremonies, and the faces of those who had been complicit in Sarah's fate. Mia felt a surge of anger. This was her family's history, and it was time to confront it. With newfound resolve, they stepped closer to Sarah, ready to face the haunting legacy that tethered them all to this nightmarish reality. The path would be fraught with danger, but Mia could feel the stirrings of hope. Together, they would break the chains that bound Sarah's spirit and free Crestwood High from its dark past.